Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double A Team Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi. Thank you for joining us on this very special edition on this Monday afternoon. I am very honored to welcome today's guest out of his busy time. As I've been tweeting on my X today, it is none other than Jake Asman. As you can see in his home studio, The Jake Asman Show. You can find it on YouTube. He's also a contributor with the ESPN New York, with the Jets content contributor as well. Jake, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate you joining me today.
No problem, Steven. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's get to it. I am a longtime Chicago Bears fan, and I've had my share of frustrations for many decades. And you're in the same boat as a Jets fan for a long time, and now you're also a content creator as well. Kind of give us an idea how you ended up becoming a Jets fan.
Well, I was kind of born into it, right? I never really had a choice. My grandpa was a season ticket holder at Shea Stadium during the Joe Namath years. So when my dad was growing up, he obviously went to games at Shea and was a Jet fan from that. And I really had no choice, right? Like because it was in my family. Like I just grew up and all I knew was being a Jets fan. So it kind of happened like that.
Okay. And how did you kind of stumble into your current line of work? You have your own YouTube show, The Jake Asman Show, and now also working for ESPN New York. How did you ended up in that career?
Yeah, it took a while to get to kind of what I'm doing now. I grew up, in the New York area on Long Island, listening to sports talk radio all the time. Like that was what I loved doing. I also loved just listening to games on the radio, right? Play by play. And then certainly, when I was watching a game, I fell in love with like that side of broadcasting as well. But I always gravitated to radio. So I always kind of considered myself like a sports radio guy. The business has
Yeah.
changed so much since like I was like growing up wanting to be on the radio as a sports talk show host. But I went to Ithaca College where I got a communications degree and got a chance to kind of do a little bit of everything there, whether it be play by play or TV or sports talk. And just from there, first job out of school, I was working at WFAN as a producer, did that part time while trying to find something full time. And I got lucky about a year after graduating from school. I moved down to Houston and started working for the ESPN station locally there. Was there almost 6 years and got a lot of hands on radio experience. The last couple of years I was there, I was in the afternoon drive slot with two other people. So once that kind of ended, I was ready to kind of take on the next thing. And there was an opportunity with ESPN New York that opened up. So I got a chance to start doing that. But the thing is, while I was doing radio in Houston, I started the YouTube channel as a bit of a side hustle, just because when I was on in Houston, we're talking Texans, we're talking Rockets, Astros, we're not talking New York teams. So I started the YouTube channel that originally was all about New York sports.
Yeah.
But I noticed anytime I did something Jet related, it just got more views than anything else. There's a huge Jet following on YouTube, a big community there. And I just started posting every day about the Jets just because like that's the team I'm the most passionate about. And it kind of grew from there to a point where August 2023, I went full time on YouTube. Now I do 2 hour shows a day, Monday through Friday, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. So it's crazy that a team as bad as the Jets have been has the following that they have, but I'm grateful for that. And now I do part-time radio on ESPN and I do full-time YouTube work every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have my friend Rashab Shakiri. He does his own YouTube channel related all things Chicago Bears, and I have him on, and it gets a great content no matter how bad the team is, and I can definitely understand where you're coming from. So let's talk about the current state of the New York Jets. Obviously, the big trade deadline came. Quinnen Williams was traded to the Dallas Cowboys for second round pick in the 26th draft, 27th draft, whichever will it be more, either the Packers or the Cowboys pick, the Cowboys pick, certainly they got one from Green Bay for the next 2 years or so for the Micah Parsons trade. Give me your overall thoughts on how the Jets did during the trade deadline.
Yeah, to me, they got tremendous value for both Sauce and Quinnen, right? I have no issue with what they got for those players. It's more so just bittersweet that the Jets were 1-7 in the first place, and two guys that were really good players, right? Sauce was a two-time All-Pro, Rookie of the Year his first year. Like he was an outstanding player that they had just signed to a contract. It's just a shame that it got to a point where you had to deal them and it made sense because those guys held up their end of the bargain. They should have been part of future Jets teams that hopefully, went on playoff runs and had an opportunity to actually do something. And it just never happened. And especially with Quinnen, the Jets had the longest playoff drought in professional sports. Quinnen's been around for half of it. He was in his 7th year with the Jets and he never got to experience any semblance of winning. So as far as the trades, they got great value, right? Who could complain with 3 first-round picks in 2027, having 5 total now over the next 2 years, multiple seconds coming up. No issue with that. It's just bittersweet that we got to a point where this team was so bad this year that you had to trade them in the first place.
Did you foresee one of them or even both of them getting traded?
Quinnen, I thought was possible just because his contract, while he still had years on it, there was a lot of rumblings that he wanted to redo it. He didn't have a ton of guaranteed money left on it. And I'm thinking, okay, he's going to be 28, been here a while. If you could get max value for Quinnen, I think they would consider it. I never thought they'd be able to get a first and a second, though. I thought at best they'd be maybe able to get a second. I think the Cowboys completely overpaid in that regard, so I get it. Sauce came out of nowhere, right? You just don't expect a guy that you just paid in the previous summer to be dealt. But when you see what they got for him, I get it. Like, Sauce is really good, but 2 first-round picks for any non-quarterback, like, that's crazy value. I mean, Micah Parsons went for the same package that Sauce went for, and Parsons is a pass rusher and a better player. So I get why they did it. Just once again, it's unfortunate it got to that point.
Right. I lived in Dallas for a couple of years, and obviously Jerry Jones is a man that just cannot keep talking, or he can't turn down any microphone that's in front of him. So he has to kind of stay relevant, and obviously the defense has been a massive issue. So kudos to the Jets for, I don't want to say maybe fleecing the desperate Cowboys out of one of their draft picks in that Micah Parsons deal as well. You've been very, very passionate about this team, and then obviously the poor start has led to many questioning the future of Aaron Glenn. You have been vocal about maybe this being a one and done and all of that kind of stuff. Now the team is at 2-8, having won 2 straight games before losing to New England last Thursday. Where are you right now on Aaron Glenn keeping his job beyond this year?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get fired, right? My big thing was if the Jets finished with the worst record in the league, I was arguing then what's the justification for Aaron Glenn getting a second year? This team, well, not a playoff team. The expectations were they were not going to be the worst team in the NFL. So they seemingly have stabilized some things. I don't think they're going to finish with the worst record. They beat the Browns, right? So they, beat the Bengals. I think there's still some winnable games over their final 7. I think they'll probably finish with 4 wins. So I don't think he's going to get fired. My whole thing was if you're sitting there with the first pick and you look at what the Patriots just did with Gerard Mayo and how they've immediately figured it out, why wouldn't I reassess my team, get a real offensive coach for the first pick in the draft, and go from there? That to me is obviously not happening. I think Glenn could finish with 2 wins, and he's not going anywhere. And a big reason for that is those trades you just asked me about, right? You're not going to fire the coach who also has a major say in the personnel. In fact, Darren Muji, the Jets GM, he got hired after Aaron Glenn. Like Woody Johnson, the Jets owner, referred to Muji as Glenn's sidekick at the introductory presser. So Glenn has more control over the franchise than even the GM does. So he's not going anywhere because the owner believes in Aaron Glenn and signed off on this plan to get all these draft picks for those players. So he'll be on the hot seat, I would say, next year if they're having another terrible season. But I think he is going to be this team's coach going into next year. And as a Jet fan, I have questions. I hope he improves because, so far, 10 games in, I don't think he's done a very good job.
Right now, where the Jets are at 2-8, when you look at the first 10 games of this season, or even we could go back to, off season or preseason, where you were looking at this team, was there any kind of warning sign that made you say, this team is not going to be good, or like Aaron Glenn is kind of over his head right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, at times he has looked in over his head. I think he's been a little better of late, just as far as like in-game decisions and, not, costing the Jets by not having a feel for the game or not being able to make a decision fast enough. I mean, there were some glaring mistakes. I think a lot of people saw the game in London because it was a standalone game in the morning where, I mean, the end of each half in that game was just an
Yeah.
unmitigated disaster, right? So we haven't had that since. I think there has been some improvement there, but you look at this roster, there's good players on this team, and a lot of them have either regressed or have not even come close to what the expectations were for them. So between that, some of the questionable staff hires, how committed Glenn was to Justin Fields, going as far as saying that, this is a guy that hasn't been coached right, and we're going to let him play quarterback. And now, he's been benched again. It has not been a good first year for Glenn. I recognize the roster is not great, but they were, they were the last team in the NFL to get a win. Like, they started 0-7. Every other team in the league had a win by then. So I don't think the Jets are like historically bad, like they were trending the first 7 games. Now they're kind of just like your run of the mill bad football team, if that makes sense. But it hasn't been good overall. And obviously, people will point to Dan Campbell, who, is where Aaron Glenn came from, and you got to show patience and all that. And I get it. I just hope he improves because, right now, I think if you ask any Jet fan, gun to your head, do you think Aaron Glenn's going to be a great coach? I don't think too many are actually going to be honest with you and say yes.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, being a former, Jet player himself, drafted in 1994. He knows the culture of the New York Jets, and was probably one of the few players who still was on the team when the Jets were very good in the late 90s when Bill Parcells was still coaching. My guest today is Jake Asman from ESPN New York. And also the New York Jets YouTuber. You could go look up Jake Asman show, as you see on his wall there. Thanks for joining us on this Monday afternoon. So with 7-8 games left in the season right now, Jake, what is it that you're looking forward to for the New York Jets? What are you what would you like to see? What are your expectations for the next 7 games left on this schedule realistically right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Jet fans who will probably tell you they just want to see losses, and I get that, right? And we're at that point now where get the better pick. Have your pick of the quarterback. Now, the Jets could always trade up. They do have all those picks we talked about, but what if the team in front of you doesn't want to make a deal, or what if you don't want to have to use those assets for a quarterback? You could get your quarterback and then have all those extra picks to surround that quarterback with a good player. So I understand that argument. I just kind of accepted that the Jets are probably going to win another game or two, just based on how the schedule goes. Like, I don't think they're worse than the Titans. I don't think they're worse than the Browns. I don't think they're worse than some of the teams that are in front of them. So, to me, I think what you want to see is Glenn show improvement, right? No more London-like game debacles, game management. I think he made a good decision earlier today by benching Fields for Tyrod, just for the sake of the locker room. And you're also trying to evaluate what you have specifically with some of these receivers, right? They acquired A.D. Mitchell in that Sauce Gardner trade. John Mechie caught a touchdown the other night. He was acquired in the Michael Carter deal they made the previous week with Philadelphia. You have Garrett Wilson, and you don't have much else at that wide receiver position. Do you have something now in Mitchell and Mechie? Can they be a part of your 2026 plans? I think by playing Taylor, who's more of a drop back passer, you get a better idea on what you have there. Can you see, this defensive line start to play a lot better? You got 2 talented players in Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson. Do they look the part down the stretch? Does the offensive coordinator now with Tyrod as the QB, does he still have some really good game scripts? I thought the Jets had a great opening drive Thursday night. And then once the Patriots kind of adjusted, that was all she wrote. But with Tanner Engstrand, can we see more improvement from him as a play caller? So there's still some things to watch, but ultimately, this season's been cooked for a while now. So I get why some are saying, who cares? Finish with as worse of a record as possible so you can take your quarterback. So we'll see. As someone who talks about them for 4 hours a day, the question you asked me is what I'm asking myself all the time. Like, man, what are we going to talk about for these next 7 games?
Obviously, Tyrod Taylor earlier today was named the starting quarterback for the rest of the season in place of Justin Fields, for those just joining us. Barring injury, I think Justin Fields' time as a starting quarterback in the NFL pretty much came to an end. It's unfortunate because as a Bears fan, I was very excited when he got drafted back in 2021. I was actually living in near Columbus, Ohio, when it happened. So it was a really exciting. That 2021 class, Jake, you might remember. You guys drafted the BYU quarterback. I forgot his first name, but Wilson.
Zach Wilson. Yep. The
Zach Wilson,
Dynamite
thank you
sisters.
so much. Yeah, that class was just unfortunate with, with so much hype. Yet, unfortunately, Wilson Fields didn't live up to it. So it really had to be difficult for, myself. And of course, and I bet it was very much a disappointment to you as well when Zach Wilson got drafted, I believe, second overall. And he just really, really fizzled badly.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a kind way to put it too, right? Really fizzled. I mean, he was to me the worst quarterback I've ever watched that played the amount of starts or played the amount of games that he played in. And look, that decision, they're still feeling the ramifications of it, right? Because Zach Wilson, they missed on him, but they actually had a talented team around them to a point where they won 7 games with Zach in 2022. They were 6-3, 7-4, collapsed, finished 7-10. And that's why they made the Aaron Rodgers trade in the first place. They felt like just like the Bucs were, with a 7-win team, talent, but needed the quarterback. They were that Tom Brady away, and that was Aaron Rodgers. And then he gets hurt 4 plays in. The entire coaching staff and regime gets a mulligan for that 2023 year. You bring everyone back 5 games into the year. You're 2-3. The owner fires the coach. The season spirals. Everyone gets fired. Rodgers is gone. And here's Aaron Glenn now without a quarterback. And now you have, Bears fans knowing, well, Justin Fields being brought in. It's never ended with the quarterback issues. But the biggest issue that started kind of all this is really taking Zach Wilson second overall and him struggling the way he did. He just never figured it out.
So we're looking at the Tankathon on X right now. As you can see, the Jets are picking 5th as of today right now. The question, obviously, on the minds of many Jets fans probably is already looking forward to the 2026 NFL draft. And certainly, the topic of quarterbacks is going to be brought up again. Arch Manning, unfortunately, did not live up to the hype. And even if he did, I highly doubt that he was going to come out anyway. So right now, the 2 top ones are Ty Simpson of Alabama, first-year starter, who did not look good, unfortunately, against the Oklahoma Sooners over the weekend. Fernando Mendoza, Heisman candidate from the University of Indiana or Indiana University, depending on who it is. Jake, right now, will you support the Jets drafting a quarterback in the 2026 draft, or do you feel like, there's too many unknowns, and between you and I, we've already dealt with a bunch of rookie quarterbacks that fizzle badly with each of our respective teams. Would you rather go for a reclamation project like maybe Mac Jones right now with the 49ers, who seems to be doing very, very well, and would you take a chance on a guy like that?
I would draft a quarterback. I think every year we say, next year's class is going to be better. Well, they said that about this year's class, right? Garrett Nussmeier, Lenora Sellers, Cade Klubnik.
Right, Cade Klubnik.
Like, just enough. These guys stink. You have legitimate quarterbacks coming out this year. Mendoza, Simpson, throw Jordan Mailata from USC in there if you'd like. We'll see if Dante Moore declares, but he's super talented. He might if he's a projected top 10 guy. Find someone you like and get him. That's my philosophy. I think waiting till 2027, one, from a Jet standpoint, it's risky if you're Glenn and Muji. What if you go 4-13 in 2026? Are you definitely going to be able to get your quarterback in 2027? Exactly. And 2, okay, say you do that. Well, what if you win too many games? Oh, well, Jake, you could trade up for a guy in 2027. All right, but what if the teams in front of you like these quarterbacks and don't want to make a deal? Just because you have the assets doesn't mean they're going to say yes. The Giants, I cover them on ESPN. The Giants, they tried to get Drake May a couple of years ago. Guess what? New England said, no way, we're not moving out. And they were at 6 trying to get to 3. They couldn't get to 2 because Washington wasn't going to make an in-division trade, and they wanted Jaden Daniels. So you could say get the quarterback in 27, and the class could actually be better in 27, which I have doubts on. But say it is, you're not guaranteed to get that guy then. So if there's someone you like now, they're going to get him. That's why they made this Sauce and Quinnen deal, to have the ammunition to go up and take someone if they have to. Ideally, as we said earlier, that guy comes to them and they don't have to trade anything. But if you win too many games and you got to move up, I think that's going to be their plan.
Right. As a Bears fan, I've seen too many head coaches and GMs on the hot seat or on a lame duck status draft. Mitch Trubisky, Justin Fields, and Caleb Williams, only to see their coaches and GM get canned a year later. And now, you're resetting the rebuilding or actually the development process. So it's going to be very interesting, with Muji and Glenn. They better get their quarterback, and they better hope that they get an extended, time to develop those quarterbacks. A couple more minutes with Jake Asman from ESPN New York, and also a YouTube channel, the Jake Asman Show. You can find it on YouTube. So the owner, Woody Johnson, seems to be a very, very an interesting guy. He's owned the team for more than 20 years. He doesn't seem to be well respected around the league. The NFLPA report came out that the Jets facilities and overall team amenities came out very, very bottom. The reports came out last week that the NFL owners wanted that gone because it would impact their the perception of their each organizations. Apparently, Woody Johnson led the movement to wanted that get rid of so that he doesn't have to treat the fans, or actually not the fans, but the players and their family members with any sort of respect. How much is the Woody Johnson being hated by the fans and media in New York there?
Yeah, I mean, you can make a case that for a while James Dolan was the worst owner in sports, but the way that Knicks have seemingly hired the right people and figured it out, and now are a legitimate championship contender, it's no longer James Dolan. It's Woody Johnson. I mean, the Jets have the longest playoff drought in sports. They have not had a winning season in a decade. They haven't won more than 7 games in a decade. So, I mean, I don't know if the media despises him. I mean, the media is trying to cover him, right? And he gives you, a lot of things to point to that says he's a bad owner, right? And this story that came out last week with the player report cards is the latest example, right? Like, teams that scored well on this probably aren't complaining that it's a bad thing. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you can't fire the owner. If you could, Woody Johnson would have been fired, 15 years ago at least. I mean, look at this playoff drought. So, the fans hate him, and can you blame him? I mean, this guy had the audacity to try and raise season ticket prices for next year, and the team is 2-8 and is nowhere near winning. So, yeah, I mean, it's bad. I mean, ultimately, you hope that he made the right hires with Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, but the early returns, at least on the coach, don't look great. So he's probably the most detested owner in New York right now, and he's arguably one of the worst owners in all of sports. I think you have to say it at this point.
Oh yeah, I can definitely understand the frustration. There was a report from, I think, Diana Rossini on the Athletic about his sons getting involved with the personnel decisions based on the Madden, and I believe this was while maybe Johnson was not even in the United States, because I think he was an ambassador to the UK under the Trump administration there. So, yeah, there is so much a level of disdain towards people like Johnson, billionaires, because I know billionaires, I think you might agree with me on this. Billionaires do not like to admit their own mistakes. And Johnson certainly, certainly born with a silver spoon in his mouth, obviously with the heir to Johnson and Johnson, global healthcare health company there and all of that. So, all right, a few more minutes to talk about not just the Jets, but also I want to talk about the the Giants, because you also covered the Giants with the ESPN New York there. Obviously, Brian Daboll got fired the day after the blowing a lead against the Chicago Bears. Was this long time coming, or should he been fired a long time ago?
You could make a case that he should have been fired at the end of last season. The writing was on the wall. If it wasn't going to happen in the middle of the season like it did, it was going to happen after the year. I mean, they were 2-8 for the 3rd straight year. They just didn't win. They had 4 games this year where they had the lead by 10 or more on the road and lost all those games, including 2 games where they led by over 10 points on the road and lost both of them. So they just completely collapsed too many times. While Jackson Dart, when he played, looked like a real bright spot, and Brian Daboll certainly should get credit for being the biggest advocate for the Giants to move up and acquire Dart in the draft and obviously start him in week 3 or week 4 when a lot of people said, really? Like, this is too quick. Look, he gets credit for that, but it wasn't enough. Like, the team didn't win enough. The record is the record. The big debate in New York right now is, why is the GM still here? Like, why wouldn't he be fired too? Why is he leading the search for the next coach? Well, Daboll certainly was not great at his job. Neither is Joe Schoen, the general manager, who came in at the same time with Brian Daboll. So that to me is the bigger story right now. I don't think anyone was surprised that Daboll ultimately was fired.
Is the Giants' job as coveted as people say out there because of Jackson Dart, or do you feel like the ownership, because of their meddling ways and also keeping Joe Schoen, makes it a little more difficult?
I think to your point, yeah, Joe Shane sticking around, it could be potentially more difficult. If I was a top candidate, I'd be like, wait, what? Why is this guy the GM exactly? I think it could be similar to what happened if you remember with the Jaguars coaching search a year ago. Remember they kept Trent
Oh
Baalke
yeah,
their
yeah, yeah.
GM. Candidates didn't want to work with him, right? So Liam Cohen basically said, "Look, I'll take your job, but you got to get rid of this guy," and they did. And guess what? Jacksonville's 6-4 right now. They probably feel really good about that decision. And then Liam Cohen obviously worked with the owner there to hire the guy from the Rams as the GM. So, could something like that happen with the Giants potentially? Because the thing is, if you keep Shane and he's leading the search, he's only going to recommend candidates that he knows would be willing to work with him. Are you really getting the best candidate for the job if you're restricted under who that candidate potentially could be? So, I think it's a fascinating situation. I know they said he's leading the search, but it wouldn't surprise me if by the time we get to the offseason, Joe Shane is not actually still the Giants GM.
Right, just like what happened with Trent Baalke. But the worst case would be that he stays and they go back to the Buffalo Bills well again and ended up getting Joe Brady or something like that, of course. But I'm just spitballing there. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, one quick question: Who do you think will win first? Your Jets or the Giants?
Your question was who figures it out first?
Yes. Who wins first? Yeah.
Probably the Giants because they have a quarterback, right? I mean, like the Jets don't have a quarterback. I don't think they have a head coach. I hope I'm wrong and he gets better. At least with the Giants, you probably have a quarterback and you at least have the opportunity to hire a good coach. Whereas
Yeah.
I haven't seen enough from Glenn to feel good about him. I'm not saying he can't be decent. I think it really comes down to who the Giants hire as their coach. But I'd bet on the Giants over the Jets right now because they have Dart. Like the Jets have had the more talented roster the last few years, and it hasn't mattered. I just think having a quarterback means so much in today's NFL.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jake, I know you got to run. You have a show to do at 4:00 Eastern. Obviously, a lot to talk about the quarterback change. Tyrod Taylor now fully 100% replaces Justin Fields and everything. So, Jake, make sure for those who are tuning in tonight, make sure to follow Jake at Jake Asman. You could also look up his YouTube channel talking about the New York Jets at the Jake Asman Show. Jake, thanks for your time tonight. Listen, I hope to talk to you again maybe in February or March when the free agency and the NFL draft picture becomes a little more clear for the New York Jets. Thank you so much.
You got it. Thank you for having me. And I'd love to be a Bears fan, man. You guys have a real coach, quarterback's developing. It must be nice.
It took a while. And I mean, we're not winning pretty. We're winning ugly, but I think no one can complain about the schedule that's in front of you. And, you just have to take it one game at a time. So at least right now, I feel very good about it. And I hope that the New York Jets, because of their market size and the, the history and everything, I hope that, for the lack of better words, I hope the Jets get their shit together sooner rather than later too. So, and I hope you have a wonderful day and good luck to you in your success with the ESPN New York and your YouTube channel. Let's do this again, hopefully in early March or February, whenever you're available, sir.
Looking forward to it. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you very much for your time today, Jake.
You got it. Thanks again. Take
care. All right. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining me today on this special 30-minute edition of Jake. Jake has to run today. A reminder, me and Ken Fang, we do our regular shows on Sundays, but unfortunately, I work on Sundays for the next couple of weeks. So tonight at 7 p.m., I'll be doing the live stream with Ken as usual for about an hour. And maybe next week, also, we're probably looking at doing the same thing again. So tonight and the next week, the 24th, the week of Thanksgiving, we might be moving our show to on the 24th, 17th and 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern for about an hour to accommodate Ken's also availability as well. So we look forward to seeing you at 7 p.m. tonight on our regular live stream. In the meantime, thank you for joining me on this afternoon, 64 people. I hope you're doing very, very well wherever you are at work or at school. Have a great day, and we'll see you later tonight with myself and Ken Fang at 7 p.m. Eastern. Take care, everybody.